Okay, we can line up behind the podium here. We'll go in a couple of minutes.
We just first say thank you all for coming out here today. I'm Michael McCaul. I'm the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. I want to thank John Ladd for his hospitality and inviting us out to his ranch. Really to hear from the ranchers firsthand about what life is like on the border and the threats that come across and the needs that we have to secure this border. As many of you may know, we passed out of my committee the Secure Our Borders First Act. We intend to put that on the floor next week. This will be the strongest border security bill ever passed by the Congress. For too long, we just haven't had the political will to get that done. And I feel confident that we will get this done, and we will have the political will. Having said that, though, I want to commend my colleague, our newest colleague on the committee, Martha McSally. She is bringing a lot of energy to this committee, and one of the first things that we did when she got elected was we started talking to her about what you want to see in this bill. She started talking to the ranchers. We've had a lot of discussions with the ranchers, with CBP, with the border sheriffs about what they want to see in this bill, because they are the stakeholders. And Martha came up with some great ideas, a lot of good ideas. We call it really the rancher provision, if you will, in the bill, that will actually move the Border Patrol up to the border. They are the Border Patrol after all. We believe they need to be working closer to the border. We also have forward operating bases that we'll be putting up closer to the border. And you in the Tucson sector know about the technologies. We're going to enhance that technology all across the southwest border and maritime, because the number one goal is 100% visibility. We've never been able to see from the sky what's happening on the ground. And if you can't see what's happening, how can you possibly stop it? And the VADO technology used in Tucson demonstrated that we're only apprehending 44%. When you're only apprehending less than half, to me that's unacceptable. And so we need that kind of technology all across the border to see what we're missing so we can stop it from coming in. The threats are real. Y'all know that. The drug cartels, drug traffickers, the drugs that poison our kids, and the potential terrorist threat that we see that could potentially cross over into the United States. So it's about protecting this nation. It's a national security issue. And I look forward to working with my colleagues. This is the largest congressional delegation ever to come down to the border. And I thought it was important, and Martha thought it was very important for them to see it, because you really can't understand it until you see it. And I thought it was important to get this delegation of 21 members of Congress to see it, to know what the fencing looks like, but to know that there are other things than just fencing that are helpful in securing the border. So I'm very proud of this delegation. We're going to take this message back to Washington, the things we heard from the ranchers today. And I really want to thank my colleague, Martha McSally, for her leadership in just a short period of time in really delivering to her constituents back home by bringing 21 members of Congress, bringing the Border Patrol chief here and the commissioner, but also for listening to her rancher constituents and making this bill an even better bill. So with that, let me turn it over to Martha, and I just commend you for your hard work.
Thank you. Thanks, Chairman McCaul. I really appreciate your leadership on the border, and I really appreciate everybody who's come on this trip. As the chairman mentioned, we brought 21 members of Congress here, to include 3 chairmen of committee, the subcommittee chairman of the Border Maritime Subcommittee. So thanks to the lads. Jack, come on, get in the shot here. You need to come out here. Jack Ladd, amazing 3rd-generation rancher. John Ladd, 4th-generation rancher. Lots of many generation ranchers here behind us, representing the cross-section from west of Nogales all the way east of Douglas in the conversation that we had today. And so it was wonderful to have the members of Congress and the leadership of these committees to hear firsthand from the ranchers and border residents the challenges that they're having with the illegal activity and the cartel activity, transnational criminal organizations coming in and trafficking onto their property, and the public safety threat that is to them and their families, the impact that has on their business and the economy, and also the national security threat that it is. So we had a very candid roundtable discussion so these members of Congress could hear directly from those that are living here, really on the front line for the challenges that they're facing. We also had members of the Krentz family here. As you all know, Rob Krentz was murdered here near the border on his own property, and so this is a very serious issue, and there's been multiple other stories told by the border residents of some of the challenges and the difficult decisions they have to make on a daily basis. As they shared with us today, as they shared with me through the whole campaign, although the numbers have gone down, the level of danger of the types of people that are coming across has gone up. So it is more the transnational criminal organizations, the level of danger is increased, the trafficking of the drugs and the weapons and the money going south has caused a serious public safety threat. And so I'm proud to represent the people of this district and to be participating in this border bill. My amendment that I offered to address the ranchers' perspectives, to basically direct more Border Patrol agents to the border, to increase the number of FOBs and the manning at the FOBs, forward operating bases, to have a rapid reaction capability so that ideally the illegal activity is detected and monitored well south of the border so that it's actually intercepted or deterred, quite frankly, but if it's breached, intercepted actually at the border or as close to the border as possible instead of well inland, because as these traffickers are coming across the property of those that you see behind me, and we've got the sheriff here who also is dealing with this challenge in our community, then the dangers are there to them. So I really appreciate the leadership of Customs and Border Protection as well, and the Chief of Border Patrol coming out on this trip. We all have the same goal, which is to secure our border so that we can keep our community safe and our country safe. And so we got to have the dialogue, we got to have that strategy, we got to make sure we have the resources. I do believe we now have the political will, and I'm glad to be a part of the leadership that's actually going to try and get this job done now. So at this point, I'll hand it over to John Ladd. He's going to just share some of his perspectives, and then we'll have time for a few questions, and then we got to head out. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. And it's been said from the chairman that this is the biggest delegation that's come, and that's a fact. It's also, we have the widest representation of border ranchers. We have from Nogales to the New Mexico state line. The meeting that we've had all day has been way more productive than I thought. The delegation is, they're good people. I think we all have the same interests at heart, and they have an understanding now of what the reality of the international boundary and the border area is. And I'm very optimistic that after today, with the things that's been learned, that there might be something very positive coming. And I can tell you we've been dealing with this for 25 years, and it's time that we fix the problem. And I'm done with that.
Does anybody have any questions?
For John?
Sure.
Yes. John, you've had a lot of media, a lot of delegations out here. I've ridden with you before. You're a skeptic. Why are you so positive this time around? Because this has happened before. Why are you so positive this time around? What's different about this one behind you?
They're here.
They've been here before, though.
Not this many and not this high ranking. And I'm telling you, they're good people. I've never had that feeling before, but they're smart. They listen, and I'm really optimistic that we finally have a chance to get something.
Yeah, something. How soon was this operation of putting the Border Patrol back on the border? How soon might we expect that to happen?
Right now we're currently scheduled to, Bill passed out of committee last week. We're scheduled to have it on the floor as early as Wednesday. Then it has to go through the Senate, obviously. I think it'll be fast-tracked. We have a companion bill signed by Senator Cornyn and Ron Johnson in the Senate. It's an identical bill to what we just passed out of committee. And so it's our sincere hope that this will be on the fast track so that this will be happening by the end of the year. I wanted to address one other. There's been a lot of talk about interior enforcement. This is a border security bill. and that is what my committee does. The Judiciary Committee will be coming out with a very strong interior enforcement bill in the near future, which will address a lot of things like whether it's mandatory detention and catch and release, e-verify, and other things like that. So working, it's a very complementary effort working together on these two things, but this is really to stop the bleeding, to secure this border once and for all.
Congresswoman, or any members of the delegation, Secretary of Homeland Security came out late this week. He didn't have a lot of good things to say about this bill, to put it mildly. He said it would actually hinder the Border Patrol the way he read it. Can you respond to that?
Well, look, we gave the department time to get this done. They have not gotten the job done. And I believe it's time for Congress to lead. The reason they don't like my bill, and the unions don't like it, is because we tell them how to get it done. It's the first time we go sector by sector, telling them what technology, sensor surveillance, aviation, whatever we think is needed based on the threat and the needs, based upon our discussions with the ranchers, with Border Patrol chiefs, with the stakeholders. We're telling them how to get the job done, and maybe they don't like that. And also, if they don't get it done, there are real penalties in the bill for political appointees. Well, they don't like that either. And I know you probably saw the Border Patrol union came out against that. Well, I didn't hear really one good thing about the union today from the ranchers. In fact, they think that's part of the problem. So I sort of take that as a ringing endorsement. And I think that's just going to galvanize the strength in terms of the voting bloc in the Congress. And so, look, I work with Jay Johnson. I have a lot of respect for him. And I'll be working very closely with him on this bill.
The bill also calls for a lot of UAV time, especially in the Tucson sector. There have been reports that said that may not be quite so cost effective as originally believed. You still back the extra UAV time as a result?
Well, I do, because it gives that visibility from the sky. There are other, the Tucson's the only one that used the radar technology. That is very effective. And like I said, we're only catching less than half. That's really not acceptable. That's not a good metric or measure of success, and we can do better. And so that's what we're striving to do here. I mean, I've been up there for 10 years as a federal prosecutor working on the border. This is the first time I've seen this opportunity. And the first time I've seen the political will to get this done, and I sure hope we can.
Bruce, if I could just go back to, we've got men and women from the Border Patrol here with us today. They live in my neighborhood. We appreciate what they're doing every day, putting on the uniform, stepping up to serve in order to keep us safe. But we need to make sure that they've got the resources and the direction that's needed to actually solve this problem, to force the interceptions to be more towards the actual international boundary, give them what they need, and direct that strategy so that it addresses the public safety considerations of the residents. So this doesn't need to be an us versus them. We're all in this together, and we all have a similar goal. And I really do appreciate those that put on the uniform every day. They're also my constituents. I appreciate what they're doing, and we need to work together to make sure that that strategy is addressing the reality that defense in depth, which gives hours to days to intercept illegal activity, just doesn't work for the residents that are in harm's way as that activity is coming across their ranch. So we need to figure out how to put the resources with intelligence-driven operations, with the detection and monitoring being further, deeper south, so that we're actually deterring the activity, preventing the activity, and when the breaches happen, it's intercepted as quickly as possible. And that's, I believe, what the men and women in uniform also want to do, and we got to make sure that we got the right strategy and the resources to make that happen, and we're committed to doing that.
Of all the members of the delegation that I hear, how many of you was this your first time actually seeing the border? I'm just curious. I'm just wanting to. How many total?
There are probably a few over there.
Yeah, some are 22.
Camera
So,
shot.
I'd like to hear from one of you guys. This is the first time you've seen the border. Thoughts? If you want to come up to the podium.
I'll speak on it. No, I think that's one of the things that's so important. When we're in Washington and we're talking about these issues, and we're hearing different opinions, and the debate goes on, it certainly helps us to be here, talking with the ranchers, being the voice for the ranchers, being the voice of our Border Patrol, and actually seeing what's happening here, seeing what will work, seeing what won't work. It's hard to debate an issue when you actually haven't been there and seen that. So this has been incredibly educational for me, and I think that I am going to continue to encourage my fellow colleagues to come to the border and see what's happening, see what's working, see what isn't working, so that we can move forward with really productive, effective measures that will solve problems.
And then I had a question for Mr. Ladd as well. You know, Department of Homeland Security again saying that there's less people crossing, but you know, Martha mentioned the type of people crossing are completely different level. From your perspective, living here, seeing it every night, what are you seeing? And you can hold that thought until they set up the microphones. But what are you seeing, and how has it changed?
You're right in your assessment, and there's a dramatic reduction in the illegal aliens, immigrants, whatever you want to call them. And they're crossing in groups of 1, 2, or 3, and you know, maybe 8, 10, 12 a day, where it used to be 200 or 300 a day. But what we have now is those groups of 1, 2, and 3 basically have criminal records in both countries, and we probably have a 500% increase in drugs coming across, whether they're backpacking it or if it's coming through trucks that are cutting the border wall down and driving across the ranch into Sierra Vista. That's what's increased in the last 3 years, and that's dramatic.
Let's do one more and then we'll pull them aside because the group's got going, please.
No. Any other questions? All right, well, again, thanks for making the drive out here. I really appreciate it, and I do want to reiterate, you know, I think I've been in office, 18 days now. It's an honor to serve Southern Arizona. It's an honor to be a part of the Homeland Security Committee, be appointed as a subcommittee chair as well. I really appreciate the leadership of the chairman. Candace Miller is the subcommittee chair for Border and Maritime Security. For all the members of Congress who chose to come here and see what we're dealing with in our community, it really is important. Now they can understand the challenges that we're facing. And thanks to the lads for hosting us, and for the rest of the ranchers for the very candid discussion we have today. We're very committed to getting the job done. We know these are complex issues, but we all have the same goal in mind that I mentioned, which is to keep our community and our country safe, and do it in a way we're good stewards of the resources that we're using. And we look forward to getting it done. So thanks for coming out today, and we'll see you all soon.